Hey everybody, welcome to this lesson on Sefer Yehoshua, where today in the 13th and 14th chapters we'll begin to take a lengthy look at how Eretz Canaan is divided up. So after 7 years of fighting, 7 years of conquest, the Jewish people now have under their control most, but not all, of Eretz Canaan, and it's time to start dividing the land. But before we talk about the division, let's take a quick look back at some of the highlights of these last 7 years of conquests, beginning with the crossing of the Yarden and the Battle of Jericho. Even though the city of Jericho was heavily armed and heavily fortified with a very strong wall, the Jewish people, after circling the city for 6 days, circle it one last time on Shabbat, the seventh day. They circle it 7 times, and at the end of the 7th circuit around the city, the walls of Jericho miraculously crumble, leaving the city exposed. The Jewish people are, of course, commanded not to take from any of the spoils. Achan doesn't listen. By the time they figure out it's him, it's too late. They suffer a setback in their next battle, the Battle of Ai. Eventually, after making things right, punishing Achan for his sins, the Jewish people are able to conquer Ai. Yehoshua uses a really clever military strategy here to ambush the city. And at that point, they're able to set up base in Gilgal and begin a broader conquest of the southern region. Of course, that begins after the city of Givon comes under attack. They're located in the top right of this map. Remember, the Givonim really should never have been protected by the Jewish people, but they struck a peace treaty with Yehoshua by pretending they were people from a faraway land and not the Chivi region. By the time Yehoshua figures out that they tricked him, it's too late. The Jews honor this treaty and come to the defense of the Givonim against 5 kings who are pretty upset that Givon struck a peace deal with the Jewish people. Here we saw some miraculous events, including Yehoshua literally holding time in place near Ayalon, near the center of your screen, and Givon. Ayalon is located near the city of Sha'alvim, where I spent a bunch of time. And through this miraculous display, Yehoshua manages to keep time standing still on Friday afternoon so that the Jews don't have to fight on Shabbat. At this point, the Jewish people pretty much have control over the entire southern region, except towards the area on the left of your map, the cities of Ashkelon and Gaza, which still remain under the Canaan control. What's interesting about those cities is that they're mainly inhabited by giants. One city in that region, the city of Gat, located near Gaza, is interesting because a very famous giant by the name of Goliath comes back to haunt the Jewish people in Sefer Shmuel. We'll learn about Goliath and his famous battle with David hopefully one day, but just keep that in mind. One more side note, located near the center of your screen, the city of Hebron, is, of course, the site of Ma'arat Machpelah, the site of the burial place of our Avot and Imahot, and, of course, the city that eventually is awarded to Kalev, that we read about in Perek Yud Gimel. Just a quick background on that. Kalev and Yehoshua were two of the spies, I should say, that were sent by Moshe to spy out Eretz Canaan before the Jews began their conquest of the land during Moshe's lifetime. 12 spies in total were sent, but only 2, Kalev and Yehoshua, came back with a positive report about the land. They were rewarded for their efforts. Kalev was rewarded by receiving the land of Hebron as an inheritance for he and his descendants. And, of course, he is given that land in this parak. So after the southern region is under control, the Jews turn their attention to the north, and we studied this before. Chatzor is the main city here that the Jews turn their attention to. The city of Chatzor, led by the king Yavin, were the ones who organized the attack against the Jewish people. Here the Jewish people take control over the land, and they fight near the waters of Meron, and eventually burn the city of Chatzor to the ground, and now have a strong control over the entire northern region, leaving some cities under Canaan control. And again, some of those regions over there are inhabited by giants. Now, how do you divide up a land fairly? So there were 2 ways that the Jewish people did this. One was a lottery system. There were two boxes. In one box, the names of all the tribes appeared. I should say 9.5 of the tribes. You'll see about that in a second. And in the other box were regions in the land. And what Yehoshua did, you see him on the right over there, he would draw out the names of the tribes from one box and match each tribe with a different region. Now, this wasn't the only way the Jewish people divided the land. Elazar, son of Aaron, the Kohen Gadol, used the Urim V'Tumim. We remember those from the Battle of Ai and how they figured out it was Achan. So he used the Urim V'Tumim to also show that this process was from Hashem. The way this worked is that the Urim V'Tumim would light up with different letters, each letter representing the names of the tribes. So, for example, Yehuda, which was the first tribe to go, lit up Yud, Hey, Vav, Daled, Hey. And after the tribal name lit up, letters lit up again on the Urim V'Tumim, these letters signifying a region in the land. Now, what was amazing is that each region that lit up matched the exact tribe that was chosen by means of the lottery, so that the results of the lottery and the results from the Urim V'Tumim were completely identical. It was a tremendous miracle. Now, as I said before, not every tribe received a portion in the land. Only 9.5 tribes received land in Eretz Canaan. Those tribes you can see in front of you. 2.5 tribes, Reuven, Gad, and half of Manasseh, would not take possession in the land itself. They would reside to the east of the Yarden River, and we'll talk more about that later. Of course, you notice perhaps on your screen that there's one tribe that's missing, and that's the tribe of Levi, who doesn't get any land, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's take a moment and reflect on some of the big questions of our parak. How can Yehoshua divide up land and give it out to the tribes if not all the lands were conquered? He's dividing all of the land right now, but not all of it is under their control. That doesn't seem right. How can you give away something that's not yours? We'll also pay attention to the fact that giving out the land right now might have created a bit of an incentive for the Jewish people not to fight. Once you know that you've got your land, why would you keep fighting and conquering and putting your life at risk? You've got your land, just go and inhabit it. Why would you keep fighting and conquering the rest of the land? So we have to understand why Yehoshua would already announce the territories before the land was completely conquered. It seems a little bit backwards. And finally, we'll take a look at why Yehoshua used a lottery system and the Urim V'Tumim to give up the land. Those seem very miraculous. They seem a bit supernatural. And as the Jewish people made their way into Eretz Canaan, they were going to begin a life that was very natural, a life that didn't depend on miracles on an everyday basis. So why use a system that's so supernatural for an existence that's not going to rely on miracles? Those are some of the questions we'll study when we get back to class. Looking forward to going a little bit deeper and broader into this parak when we return.